In the autumn of 2000, I was literally brought to my knees while alone in a hotel room. I could barely breathe. My chest felt like it was in a vice. I was sweating profusely and soon was informed that I had had a heart attack. But something was dreadfully wrong with this picture. I don't smoke or drink. I'm not overweight. I exercise every day, and I've done so for over 25 years. I watch what I eat, I meditate, I do what I love, and I love what I do. I have a great marriage. I have wonderful children. I don't do heart attacks. That's for other people who live their lives in such a way as to invite in heart attacks, not me, not Dr. Wayne Dyer. Yet there I was, in the hospital, with monitor wires attached all over my upper body, and with an IV in my arm. In 3 days, I would have an angiogram procedure. For the first 24 hours, I lay there in a state of shock and disbelief. It is called denial. I felt sorry for myself. I refused to acknowledge that such a thing could happen to me. I was, to be honest, scared to death. After that first day, I began to rehash what I had written that you are about to hear. I reminded myself of the title. There's a spiritual solution to every problem. And this surely was a problem. I remembered that I could bring the energy of spirit right here to this hospital room. By doing so, I could actually turn this thing around. The facts were the facts. My heart had been injured. Now it was up to me. I am not this body. I am a spiritual being, eternal, always connected to God. I could shift my awareness to being the observer rather than the victim. It was as if the light came on in a room of darkness. I felt the presence of a higher, faster healing energy almost immediately. I began to be cheerful rather than morose. I circulated around the cardiac ward, attempting to cheer up those who were much worse off than myself. I looked for what was right about that place and experienced gratitude for everything my senses witnessed. On Monday morning, the angiogram revealed a blockage in one artery that may have been a part of my physical anatomy since birth. My heart was strong and the damage was minimal. A stent was inserted in the blocked artery after a balloon poked out the offending plaque. I am now back to my normal exercise and work routine. I decided to share this information with you to illustrate how a seemingly insurmountable problem has a spiritual solution readily accessible. It worked. Trust me. I, Wayne Dyer, know from first-hand experience. Can you make a flower grow? Probably your first response is, such a simple thing to do. Plant a seed, provide sunlight and water, and in time, a flower will emerge. However, I am inviting you to consider who or what generates the life that makes a flower grow. Who or what causes the flower seed to blossom and the tiny embryo to become a human being? Who or what grows our fingernails and beats our heart even as we sleep? What is this force that keeps the planets in place and hurls our world through the galaxy at a breathtaking speed? These questions have been asked for as long as humans have had the ability to contemplate their existence. Spirit is what I have chosen to call the invisible energy, which is the source and sustenance of life on this planet. This force, no matter the name we give it, can solve every problem that we encounter. Recognizing the availability of an invisible force that can be put to use in solving a problem requires overcoming a great deal of our early training. Do you believe there's only one kind of power or knowledge, which relies on your sensory or intellectual faculties to solve problems? Most of us have been taught this is true. This is a conditioned attitude of non-recognition of our divine connection. In this state of non-recognition, we believe that medicines, herbs, surgery, and doctors are responsible for all healing, or that improving one's financial picture involves the exclusive application of working hard, studying, and sending out resumes. Patanjali described a kind of knowledge or power that is not accessed solely through the material world. Recognition that this power exists and is always available is the first step of activating it. As physical beings, we can make a flower grow, but if we are thoughtful, we realize that we cannot even begin to unravel the mystery of the invisible force that initiates life. Yet it is in this omnipotent spiritual world that we find the solutions to all of our problems. I think it is important to see spiritual as a part of physical rather than separate these two dimensions of our reality. It is all one. Spirit represents that which we cannot validate with our senses. The real key to understanding spiritual is this idea of our inner world and our outer world. One world, yet two unique aspects of being human. I have a friend who compares the physical to a light bulb and the spiritual to electricity. When I refer to spiritual, I do not intend it to be synonymous with religious. Religion is orthodoxy, rules, and historical scriptures maintained by people over long periods of time. Generally, people are born into religions and raised to obey the customs and practices of that religion without question. These are customs and expectations from outside of the person and do not fit my definition of spiritual. Spirituality is from within. My personal understanding of spiritual practice is that it is a way of making my life work at a higher level and of receiving guidance.
Close your eyes and hear this truth. You are not waiting on your desire. Your desire is waiting on you to rise, to elevate, to vibrate at the frequency of what is already yours. The world around you is not fixed. It bends, it molds it, reshapes according to your vibration. You are not a victim of circumstance. You are the cause. What you radiate, you attract. If you hold low thoughts, you will see a low world. But when you rise, internally rise, you will see mountains move. Vibration is simply your state of being. You do not manifest through effort, you manifest through alignment. The higher you vibrate, the faster creation flows through you. Joy is a magnet. Gratitude is a portal. Love is a key. These are not emotions, these are frequencies, and the universe responds to frequency, not words. So imagine not lightly, but boldly, with depth, with emotion, with certainty. See yourself already there, already living what you once longed for, not in the future. Now accept it as already done, and your world must obey the moment you feel it real. The unseen goes to work. The invisible becomes visible, but you must not waver. Persist in the assumption, hold the feeling even when appearances lie. Especially when they lie, your job is not to chase or strive. Your job is to become the version of you that already has it. The shift is internal, and when you vibrate higher, manifestation does not take time. It takes acceptance. So today I urge you, stop lowering yourself to match what is fading. Rise to meet what is calling, vibrate higher, and you will manifest faster. Because the moment you become it, it must come to you. You do not attract what you want. You attract what you are. This is the most misunderstood truth in all of creation. The world around you is nothing more than a mirror, faithfully reflecting back the state. You consistently dwell in people. Believe they must work harder, push more, chase endlessly after what they desire, yet they do not realize that the outer world is secondary. It is the echo. The origin lies within. The secret is not in the doing, but in the being, your inner state. What you feel, assume, and believe to be true about yourself, and life broadcasts a silent frequency. This frequency is your vibration. It is not heard by the ears, but it is registered by reality. The moment you shift your state, the world must shift in response. But because the world seems so solid, so separate, we tend to ignore the invisible cause and blame the visible effect. Desire alone changes nothing. Wanting something, no matter how deeply, does not draw it to you. What draws it to you is becoming the version of yourself who already has it. You must embody the outcome. That is, you must feel the reality of the desire fulfill so deeply that your consciousness cannot distinguish between what is imagined and what is perceived. When you persist in an inner state of lack, you do not move toward your goal. You only deepen the distance. If you feel unworthy, if you feel desperate, if you feel incomplete, those feelings form the vibration you emit in life. Being completely impersonal reflects it back to you in kind. You meet experiences, people, and events that affirm what you are already being inside, but when you deliberately shift inward, something extraordinary happens. When you begin to feel worthy, blessed, and whole. Not because the world gave it to you, but because you decided it. You change your entire vibration. And life, like a loyal servant, must obey. This is why it is said that to him who has more shall be given, because the one who feels abundance attracts abundance. The one who feels love receives love. Not because they seek it, but because they have become it. The inner state is not dependent on conditions, it is the cause of them. You must become quiet enough to recognize what you are vibrating. If you are anxious, pause. If you are worried, observe. If you are bitter, release, and then choose again. Choose deliberately to dwell in peace and faith, in love. The moment you do, you've already moved realities. The world you see may not change instantly, but the blueprint has been altered. Creation is finished. All possibilities exist. Now, the only thing that separates one outcome from another is your alignment with it. And alignment is nothing but sustained vibration. The more consistently you dwell in the inner state of your desire fulfilled, the more quickly it materializes around you. It is not magic, but law. And the law is always working, whether you believe it or not. Do not be fooled by appearances. The world will test your commitment. It will whisper doubt. But stay faithful to your state. Choose to remain in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, no matter what the senses show, because the senses only echo the past. The future is formed in consciousness. Your inner world is the soil. What you water with emotion grows. So stop trying to force the outer world to bend. That is not your task. Your only task is to assume the feeling of your desire is already yours, to vibrate in harmony with it and to watch calmly, faithfully. As life reshapes to match your new frequency, you are not chasing the dream. The dream is chasing you. Once you become the version of you who already lives it. Emotions are not random. They are not meaningless reactions. Emotions are energy, pure and powerful, flowing through the body like a signal. Like a vibration sent out into the field of creation, they are not simply feelings, they are frequencies. They move, they radiate, they reach out and draw back to you that which matches their essence. This is why emotion is not something to suppress or escape. It is something to understand, to guide, and to use with purpose. Every emotion you experience sends a message to the unseen. When you feel low, when you dwell in fear, anger, shame, or doubt, you are not just having a bad day. You are aligning with the lower frequency reality one that will reflect back to you the very same feeling you are emitting. The outer world mirrors the inner climate. It does not respond to words or desperate affirmations spoken in contradiction to your feelings. It responds to the truth of your emotional state. But what happens when you begin to rise, when you start to cultivate elevated emotions, not as a reaction to circumstances, but as a choice of practice? Everything changes. Gratitude, love, peace, joy. These are not simply pleasant feelings. They are the gateways to higher realities. The moment you feel gratitude, you are telling the universe it is done. I have received. You are no longer begging, no longer waiting. You have become the version of you who lives in the fulfillment of the desire. Love is the purest frequency, not romantic love, but unconditional inner radiant love. Love for life, for being, for self. This emotion raises your vibration faster than logic ever could. It lifts you beyond resistance, beyond fear, and in that high vibration, the reality you once dreamed of begins to feel natural, even inevitable. Oh, that's the key. It must feel natural. The emotion you hold makes it so. Peace, too, is a frequency often overlooked. Peace is powerful. It is not passive. Peace says, I no longer need to struggle. I trust the unfolding, and in that trust that is released, and in that release, manifestation flows faster, clearer, with less effort, because creation does not respond to force. It responds to surrender, to faith, to emotional alignment. Do not manifest by thinking harder. You manifest by feeling deeper. Thought is the blueprint. Emotion is the builder. The more you feel in harmony with your desired reality, the more swiftly it is constructed in your world. You must not wait for the thing to happen to feel good. You must feel good to allow the thing to happen. Imagine the person you wish to become. How do they feel? What emotions fill their day? Start there. Begin to generate those emotions now, even before anything has changed. Because in truth, the inner change is the cause. The outer result is the effect. Emotion moves reality. Emotion is the bridge between the invisible and the visible. When you align emotionally with what you desire, you shorten the distance between you and the out. Time is no longer the barrier vibration is, and when your emotional vibration matches your imagined future, time collapses. The future becomes. Now let this be your practice, not to force manifestations, but to feel your way into them, to choose the highest emotions, even when nothing has changed. To live from the inside out, not the outside in, because when you choose gratitude in the absence of reason, you become magnetic. When you choose joy before the breakthrough, you bring the breakthrough closer. When you choose love before the healing, you activate healing. You are not powerless. You're not stuck. You are a creative force shaping your life with every feeling you sustain. So feel wisely, feel richly. Let emotion be your tool, your guide, your magic. Emotions are energy and emotion in you. By feeling on purpose can move your world. Imagination is not fantasy. It is not mere daydreaming or mental escape. Imagination is the original act of creation. Everything that exists in your life right now began first in the unseen world of thought, shaped by the silent power of imagination. Before anything becomes form, it must first be accepted in consciousness. What you vividly imagine and emotionally accept as true plants the seed of your future experience. The world you see is nothing more than the harvest of what you once imagined and believed. Many believe the world is shaped by action, by effort, by external striving. But those are effects, not causes. The true cause lies deeper. All creation begins in the invisible. The mind is the womb, the inner world, the workshop. It is not what you do for hours that shapes your destiny. It is what you dwell upon in the secret place of your mind. Imagination is not idle, it is active. It is spiritual. It is the divine gift that allows you to rise above circumstance and see the world not as it is, but as it could be. And in that, seeing you make it so. When you imagine something clearly in detail and add to it the feeling of reality, the sensation that it is already yours, you trigger a shift in vibration. And when your vibration changes, the world responds. You do not have to wait for permission. You do not need proof. The outer world always lags behind the inner vision. So many delay their transformation because they are waiting for evidence. But the evidence comes after the seed is sown, and the seed is your imagined scene. It is your vision felt as real, accepted without doubt. Whatever you persist in imagining with faith becomes law in your world. This is why idle worry is danger. When you imagine things going wrong, when you rehearse fears and worst-case scenarios, you are planting seeds to weed only weeds, not flowers. Your imagination does not care whether you use it to build or to destroy, it simply obeys. It receives the command through feeling not well. The secret then is not just to imagine, but to imagine with emotion. You must feel your scene as though it is happening now. You must enter it so completely in your inner world that the outer world becomes. The senses may still reflect the old story, but you remain loyal to the vision, knowing it is only a matter of time before the world reshapes itself to match your inner assumption. Imagination is more than visualization. It is full embodiment. It is hearing the sounds, seeing the colors, feeling the textures of your desired reality. It is holding the end in mind and living from it mentally rather than towards it physically. You assume it is done. You let go of the need to figure out how, and in that surrender, creation begins to move. Think of imagination. As a spiritual blueprint, you are always building something. The question is, are you building consciously or unconsciously? Are you imagining based on past disappointments or based on new intention? The future does not come from what you have known. It comes from what you see and feel in the stillness of your own mind. That do not underestimate this power. The world honors action, but action follows vision. When you imagine rightly inspired action arises effortlessly, you are led, you are guided, the right people, the right moments. The right doors begin to appear not because you forced them, but because your inner world. Among them, creation is not something you wait for. It is something you initiate. Imagination is the seed. Feeling is the water. Faith is the light. And time is the soil that brings it all together. So imagine, and imagine boldly. Refuse to return to the past. Let your mind dwell only on what is lovely, noble, and true. What you vividly imagine and emotionally accept as real, without doubt, without resistance, must come to pass. It is law. It is your gift. Use it well. The truth of who you are has never changed. It cannot be tarnished, diminished, or lost, only forgotten beneath the noise of the world, beneath fear, doubt, and limitation. There is a core within you that is pure light, pure power, pure knowing. And the closer you come to that truth, the faster your vibration rises. High vibration is not something you earn or chase. It is what you return to. It is your natural state, your original frequency, before you were taught otherwise. From the moment you arrived in this world, the world began to shape you. You were told what was possible, what was practical, what was safe. You were conditioned to believe in lack, in struggle, and separation from your desires. You were trained to slow your energy to blend into a world that forgot its own divinity, but deep within something never forgot, something always remembered. That spark is your true self, and it is always calling you home. High vibration is the signal of that remembrance. It's what you feel when you are in alignment, when you're no longer resisting the truth of your being. It's the quiet joy that arises when you follow your intuition. It's the peace you feel when you release control. It's the surge of inspiration, of love, of presence. These are not passing emotions. They are echoes of your essence. They are reminders that you are more than flesh, more than history, more than circumstances. The lower vibrations, fear, anger, shame, guilt are not your enemies, but they are not your home either. There are signals, indicators that you are living in a version of yourself that was handed to you, not chosen by you. There are teachers showing you where you are out of alignment. The pain is not punishment, it is feedback, and the faster you learn to observe it, honor it, and release it, the faster you rise. You do not have to force high vibration. You only have to stop clinging to what keeps you low. You are not meant to carry the burdens of your past. You are not meant to wear masks to please the world. You are not meant to doubt your power, your worth, your beauty. These are illusions taught, reinforced, and repeated until they seemed real. But the truth never left you. It simply waits for your return. The more you align with your authentic self, the one who feels deeply, who speaks truthfully, who dreams without apology, the faster your vibration becomes. And with that speed comes clarity. You begin to see life differently. Opportunities appear, relationships shift, circumstances respond. You don't have to chase outcomes. They begin to move toward you, drawn by the resonance of your truth. To live at a high vibration is to live lightly, not because life is always easy, but because you no longer resist it. You meet each moment with presence, not panic. You trust the unfolding not because you know the details, but because you know who you are. You've stopped identifying with the noise. And you've remembered the stillness beneath it. The fastest way to raise your vibration is to return to what is real: gratitude, compassion, joy, trust. Not because these make you better, but because they reveal who you've always been. You are not trying to become something new. You are peeling away what is false. You are unlearning the illusion and reclaiming the true. So when the world feels heavy, pause, go within, feel the breath. Remember who you are. High vibration is not a destination. It is the frequency of your being. When you stop pretending to be anything less, you are light. You are love. You are limitless. Let everything else fall away. Faith is not a matter of hoping that something might happen. It is the inner certainty that it already has. It is the quiet conviction that defies logic, the stillness that remains even when the senses scream otherwise. Faith is not passive. It is not waiting. It is an active state of inner knowing, a deliberate assumption of the desired outcome as already real, felt deeply and without doubt. It is the invisible substance from which all visible things are shaped. When you feel the wish fulfilled, you are not asking life to bring you something. You are affirming that it already belongs to you. And that feeling is the key. It is not enough to repeat words to visualize an outcome or to recite affirmations like a ritual. These are only shells unless they are filled with emotion. It is the feeling that moves mountains. It is the inner atmosphere that creates the outer change. You do not manifest what you want. You manifest what you believe, and belief is not just thought. It is embodied emotional truth. To believe with faith means to walk through your day as if the thing were already done. You are no longer looking for signs. You are becoming the sign. You are no longer asking if it's working. You are living from the end, knowing it has already worked. Most people delay their manifestation because they keep waiting for the external world to confirm the internal desire. They look to the mirror and asked it to smile first, but the mirror can only reflect. The moment you believe from within, truly believe without needing proof, the outer must conform. The law cannot be broken. The outer world is not cause, it is effect. It follows your conviction like a shadow. Faith requires that you detach from the how and the when. These are the domains of the intellect, not the imagination. The mind wants a timeline. The soul knows better. It moves in trust. It rests in the unseen. When you live in faith, you are no longer negotiating with reality. You are not hoping. You are dwelling in the feeling of it already being true. And that is enough to feel the wish fulfilled, is to touch the invisible realm and claim it as your own. You close your eyes and see clearly. You feel deeply, fully, without resistance. You allow yourself to be taken over by the mood of the outcome. You rehearse not the problem, but the solution, not the lack, but the abundance. You've become the one who already has it, already lives. It already knows it to be theirs. This is not fantasy, it is creation. You are not escaping reality. You are forming it. Faith is the spiritual substance that calls things unseen into form. You don't need to convince others or even yourself in words. The feeling does the work. It anchors the unseen the moment you feel the wish fulfilled. Manifestation begins not when it arrives, not when it shows up on your doorstep, but in the moment you dwell in it as real. It may take time to appear, but that is no concern of yours. The seed takes time to sprout, but its emergence is certain. Your only job is to remain faithful to the feeling. Stay loyal to the unseen. Do not be shaken by appearances. Do not argue with delay. These are tests of persistence, not evidence of failure. Keep returning to the state of the wish fulfilled. Keep breathing life into your vision with feeling. What you feel consistently becomes fact. That is the quiet power of faith. It does not ask, it declares. It does not hope, it assumes. And in that assumption, life rearranges itself to match your inner truth. Persistence is the key that unlocks the door between the unseen and the seen. It is not enough to assume, once to imagine, once to feel, once the creative power of the inner world is activated by repetition, by sustained belief, unwavering focus, and the refusal to be swayed by appearances. What you assume with consistency becomes the law of your world, for consciousness is the only reality, and assumption is its blueprint. Reassume action, when felt as true, begins to clothe itself in form. But between the assumption and its full manifestation, there is often a gap. And in this gap lies the test, the temptation to doubt, to abandon the vision, to return to the evidence of the senses. Yet it is in that very moment that persistence must rise. To persist in the assumption is to remain loyal to the unseen truth, regardless of what the outer world reflects. Back to you, the world is a mirror, not a master. It does not dictate your reality, it reflects it. What you assume to be true inwardly, the world will echo. But it cannot do so instantly in all cases. For time is the cushion that allows the unseen to become seen. Do not be discouraged by the lag. Do not measure your success by how quickly things appear. Measure it by how unwaveringly you can remain faithful to your inner state. Persistence is not struggle. It is not forcing, it is not efforted in fear or desperation. It is calm, focused, dwelling in the end. It is the quiet power of the one who knows, who rests in the inner conviction that what is imagined and accepted must come to pass, even if the outer seems unchanged. You remain unchanged in your assumption. You do not explain, you do not seek reassurance. You simply continue to feel the wish fulfilled. When you persist in your assumption, you are training the subconscious mind, and the subconscious is the servant that never sleeps. It does not argue. It accepts what is impressed upon it with feeling and repetition, and once impressed, it sets the wheels in motion through people, events, and circumstances to bring your assumption into form. But this process cannot complete itself. If you constantly undo the work with doubt or contradiction, to assume something is not to wish for it, but to live from it. You think from the end, not of the end. You move through life as though it were already, so you react as the person who already lives in the desired state. This is persistence. Not in thought alone, but in feeling and identity, in inner know. Thing, you become it before it becomes visible. Do not be fooled by appearances that contradict your assumption. The world often rearranges itself through what looks like chaos or opposition, but if you persist, what seemed like delay or denial will reveal itself as part of the unfolding. The key is not to react to what is, but to remain faithful to what you've chosen within. You must persist even when you feel nothing is happening, even when the world seems to shout the opposite, even when doubt knocks and fear whispers. You return again and again to your chosen state. You rehearse it, you dwell in it, you affirm it, not because you need to convince the world, but because you are commanding it. This is the law. What you assume consistently and unwaveringly must become your experience, not because you are lucky, not because the world has changed, but because you are no longer living from circumstance. You are living from consciousness. And consciousness shapes reality, so persist not with tension, but with faith, not with impatience, but with knowing what you persist in, assuming you inevitably become. When you choose to vibrate higher, you do more than just feel good. You align with the deepest truth of who you are. You no longer face reality you shape. Your imagination becomes your workshop. Your emotions become your compass, and your unwavering faith becomes the bridge between the invisible and the visible. The outer world becomes a reflection, no longer a dictator, and you become the master of your own experience. You do not manifest by effort, but by assumption. You do not wait for proof. You live as though it is already done. Every thought, every feeling, every act of inner persistence is a seed planted in the unseeded, and when watered, with belief, with feeling, with patience, it must grow. Remember, you do not attract what you want, but what you are being, so become it now. Feel it now, assume it. Now let the vibration of your desired reality flow through your inner world and trust that the outer must follow. This is not hope, it is law. Thank you for listening. May you go forward boldly, vibrating higher, manifesting faster, and living as a creator you were always meant to be.
There's a weight that no hand can measure and no scale can define. It does not rest on your shoulders, but you feel it pressing down.
It does not bind your ankles, yet it keeps you from rising. And it is this weight, invisible, yet undeniable, that keeps so many of us from taking the flight into peace, into purpose, into freedom. It is the weight of what we refuse to release. The stories we rehearse, the wounds we keep fresh, the guilt we cradle like a memory we believe we must protect. And though we long to soar, we stay grounded because we've convinced ourselves that to let go is to forget, but forgetting is not the way forward. Releasing is. You cannot take flight while dragging yesterday behind you like a rusted anchor. You cannot rise into the light of your divine essence while gripping the shadows of resentment. The soul was not designed for heaviness. The soul was made to move like wind through skylight, spacious, free, but ego convinces us that our identity depends on the weight we carry, that our suffering is who we are, that our hurt makes us real. And so we hold on, we grip tightly to the pain, thinking it gives us meaning. But I ask you now, what has pain truly given you besides more of itself? You were not born into this world to suffer endlessly under the burden of your past. You were not sent here by Source to collect wounds like medals and wear your trauma like a crown of proof. You were born to remember that you are already whole, already enough, already free. But you cannot awaken to that truth if your hands are full of what no longer serves you. Flight requires emptiness. Not emptiness in the sense of lack, but the kind of emptiness that is sacred, the emptiness of surrender, of openness, of trust. Birds do not rise by adding more weight to their wings. They rise because they were never meant to carry anything but the wind. And you, dear soul, were never meant to carry all that you're holding. Let go, not because it erases the past, but because the past was never meant to be your prison. Let go of who they said you were. Let go of what didn't happen the way you hoped. Let go of the apology that never came. Let go of the outcome you never received. Let go of the belief that you are broken. You are not broken. You are burdened. And there's a great difference. A bird with a stone in its beak is not incapable of flight. It simply needs to drop what it's holding. And the most powerful act you can perform in this lifetime is to unclench your spiritual fists and release what you've clung to for far too long. We live in a world that glorifies accumulation of things, of titles, of experiences, but also of wounds, of grievances, of stories. But your path to peace is subtraction, not addition. Every spiritual master, every awakened soul, every truly liberated being will tell you it's not what you gain that sets you free, it's what you release. The Buddha did not awaken by becoming more. He awakened by becoming less identified with form, with desire, with self. What are you willing to become less of so that you can become more of what you truly are? Are you willing to be less right so you can be more peaceful? Are you willing to be less certain so you can be more trusting? Are you willing to be less attached so you can be more free? Because to fly, you must let the heaviness fall away. And the heaviest thing you carry is the belief that you must carry it. There is a sacred law of the universe that is always at work. The more you resist letting go, the more you attract situations that force you to. Because your soul knows what your ego denies that your healing is in the release. That freedom is not granted by anything outside you. It is unveiled when you unbind yourself from within. So many people pray for peace but refuse to put down the sword. So many seek happiness while holding on to what hurts. But you cannot have both. You cannot live in the light and feed the shadows. You cannot ascend while gripping the ground, and you cannot evolve while protecting your pain. You have a choice. And this moment, this very breath, is the threshold. You can continue to identify with your wounds. You can keep rehearsing the stories of what they did, what you lost, what didn't go your way. Or you can stop. You can take a holy pause and you can say to yourself, I've carried this long enough. I don't need this to be me anymore. This is not denial. This is liberation. Forgiveness is not weakness. It is wisdom. Releasing is not passive. It is powerful. It is not forgetting the past. It is understanding that your past does not have the authority to define your future unless you keep giving it the microphone. You came here to transcend, to transmute, to rise beyond, not to escape life, but to remember who you are within it. And you are not the hurt you experienced. You are the awareness that held it. You are not the betrayal. You are the witness. You are not the grief. You are the vast presence in which that grief arose and passed. You are not the weight. You are the sky. And nothing that happened in your story is heavy enough to keep you from remembering your true nature unless you decide it is. Take a moment now, not with your mind, but with your heart. Ask yourself quietly, what have I made heavier than it needs to be? What story are you still living inside of that no longer matches your vision of peace? What label, what memory, what name or identity have you fused with your sense of self, and does it still serve your highest path? If it doesn't, let it go. If it hurts, bless it and let it go. If it stirs up anger, acknowledge it and let it go. If it makes you feel like less than the infinite soul you are, breathe deeply and let it go. No one will do this for you. This is your sacred responsibility. No one else is inside your consciousness with a broom, sweeping out the resentment, the doubt, the guilt. Only you can do that. And you do it not because others deserve it, but because you do. You deserve peace. You deserve to wake up unburdened. You deserve to feel light. And flight, true spiritual flight, is what happens when the soul remembers that its natural state is freedom. You are not your wounds. You are not your fears. You are not the broken dreams or the roads that didn't lead where you hoped. You are the one who has survived it all and now stands at the edge of a new becoming. But you can't take off until you release what weighs you down. The caterpillar must surrender the ground before it becomes the butterfly. The leaf must release the tree to dance with the wind. And the soul must release the ego's grip to remember it was never confined to begin with. Release is the sacred act of trust. It is saying to the universe, I no longer choose to carry what you never asked me to hold. You don't heal by holding tighter. You heal by surrendering. And as you surrender, a miracle occurs. The heart begins to lighten, the breath deepens, the mind softens, the world looks less threatening, love finds you more easily, joy visits more often. And suddenly, the life you were meant to live is no longer on hold because you stopped carrying the delay disguised as pain. You are not behind. You are not late. You are exactly where you need to be to remember. The sky has always been waiting for you to rise. So often we say we want to be free, but what we really mean is we want to be free on our terms. We want to let go, but only if we know what will come next. We want to trust, but only if we can control the outcome. And this is where most souls stall. Not because life isn't offering us wings, but because we're still trying to fly while dragging the ground behind us. But let me ask you this. Has clinging ever brought you peace? Has gripping ever led to grace? Or have you noticed that every time you let go, really let go, the next step appeared more clearly, the burden grew lighter, and something inside you finally exhaled? The irony of the spiritual path is that we do not grow by adding more. We grow by shedding what was never us to begin with. Not one layer of pain was your true self. Not one scar defined you. Not one fearful thought ever spoke with the voice of your soul. And yet, we identify with them because we've forgotten the art of being rather than becoming. We think we must become something extraordinary. But the soul is already extraordinary. The only task is to remove what clouds that remembrance like a sculptor chipping away at marble to reveal the figure within your journey. It's not about chasing something new. It's about uncovering what has always been there. Your divine essence, and this essence is weightless. You do not need to fix yourself. You only need to free yourself. You don't need to gather more knowledge. You need to unlearn the lies. You don't need to become powerful. You already are. You simply need to drop the thoughts, the judgments, the traumas, and the identities that told you otherwise. The ego says, you must be more. The soul whispers, you already are. And when you listen closely, you will hear that whisper underneath every heartbeat, every breath, every still moment where you're not trying to be anything, you are simply present. In that moment, you are flying. Because flight is not a destination, it is a state of being. It is alignment with who you truly are beneath the noise. Now, you may ask, how do I begin to let go? You begin by noticing. Notice when a thought carries heaviness. Notice when a memory returns not to heal you, but to punish you. Notice when a belief makes your chest tight or your energy dim. That is not truth. That is ego disguised as memory. And you have the power right here, right now, to witness it, thank it for its role, and release it like a bird from the cage of your mind. This is not a one-time act. It is a sacred practice. Every day, you must ask yourself, does this thought serve my flight? Does this feeling expand me or bind me? Is this belief lifting me or holding me down? If it is not helping you soar, it is not coming from your highest self. Release it. You don't need it. And in its place, choose a lighter thought, a loving thought, a truer thought. Choose gratitude over grievance. Choose faith over fear. Choose now over then. And choose to see every single moment of your life, even the painful ones, as teachers rather than burdens. Because when you shift your perception, what once weighed you down becomes the very force that lifts you. Do you see the paradox? What was once pain becomes purpose. What was once failure becomes foundation. What was once sorrow becomes spaciousness. But only when you stop resisting, only when you stop identifying with it as you. And in that sacred shift, the alchemy of awakening your soul begins to remember you were never the wound. You were always the healer. You were never the broken piece. You were always the whole. You were never the story. You were always the silent awareness in which the story unfolded. And you were never meant to carry it all. That was never your purpose. So ask yourself now, what is the weight I've been carrying that I no longer wish to bring into tomorrow? Perhaps it's the weight of comparison, the belief that you must measure your worth against others, that if someone else succeeds, you've somehow failed, that your path must look like theirs to be valid. But the truth is, no two souls have the same sky to fly in. You have your own direction, your own design, your own sacred winds. And when you stop comparing your flight to someone else's, you begin to soar in your own unique rhythm. Or perhaps it's the weight of shame, the echo of past choices you no longer align with. But hear this with all your heart. You are not your past. You are the awareness that learned from it. Guilt serves no one when it becomes a home. Let it be a guide, not a jail. Take the lesson, release the judgment, and free yourself. The soul does not evolve by condemning itself. It evolves by choosing love again and again. Maybe the weight you carry is anger that hot, consuming fire that promises strength but only burns the vessel that holds it. Anger often masks grief, and grief is love with nowhere to go. Let it go. Not for them, for you. Because you were not born to be consumed by flames. You were born to be illuminated by light. Or perhaps it's the weight of the unknown, the fear of what you can't control, can't see, can't predict. But my friend, life was never meant to be controlled. It was meant to be trusted. Faith is the wings, uncertainty is the sky, and trust is the wind beneath it all. When you stop needing to know where you're going, you finally arrive in the now, and the now is the only place you ever truly had to be. So much of what we carry isn't ours to hold. We carry expectations we never agreed to, roles we never wanted, pain passed down through generations. But just because it's been handed to you does not mean you have to carry it forward. The chain ends when you say it does. The pattern dissolves when you choose to wake up. And waking up isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it's simply a moment of quiet clarity when you sit alone with your breath and realize, I'm done carrying what doesn't feel like love. That's the moment the flight begins. And once you taste it, even once, you will never forget what it feels like to be free. There is something miraculous that happens when you no longer resist the falling away, when you no longer mourn what is leaving, but bless it on its way. In that holy space, you are not losing, you are remembering. You are not being emptied, you are being refined. The acorn must crack for the oak to emerge. The shell must break for the light to pour in. And yes, it feels like loss, but in truth, it is birth. The death of who you are not is the beginning of who you've always been. Do not grieve what you release. It was never yours to keep. You are not here to hoard old identities. You are here to embody truth. And truth is light. Truth is weightless. Truth needs no defense, no protection, no mask. The most powerful thing you can do in a world obsessed with appearance is to become weightless, to become real, to say, I don't need to hold this story anymore. I don't need to defend this pain. I don't need to explain why I'm healing. I only need to return to peace. Because peace does not argue, peace does not beg, peace does not carry a ledger of wrongs. It does not keep score. Peace simply is. And when you stop trying to earn it, when you stop believing it must be deserved, you realize peace is your natural state. You were never without it. You were only distracted. The distractions came in many forms. The noise of comparison, the addiction to busyness, the need to be seen, the compulsion to be understood. But peace never left you. It was waiting quietly underneath the rubble of all that trying. Flight is not about rising above others. It is about rising above the noise, the inner dialogue that says, you're not enough, you haven't done enough, you don't deserve rest. That voice is not the voice of God. That is the voice of conditioning. And the moment you stop identifying with it, you begin to fly. Because flight isn't about escaping life, it's about engaging life from a higher vantage point. When a bird soars above the storm, it's not avoiding the sky, it's simply rising to where the storm no longer reaches. And so must you. There will always be chaos on the ground, always some drama, some fear, some grievance pulling at your feet. But you are not your feet, you are your wings. And your wings are made of faith, of surrender, of the deep knowing that you are carried by something greater than circumstance. What is this something greater? Call it what you will. God, Source, the Tao, divine intelligence. The name matters less than the experience of it. And the experience of it is this: peace without reason, joy without cause, love without condition. When you rest in that space, you will realize nothing was ever missing. You just couldn't feel it through the weight you were carrying. Release is the doorway to the divine. You do not need to beg the universe for peace. You need only make space for it. Peace does not need to be created. It only needs to be uncovered. Imagine your soul as a radiant sun always shining. The clouds of resentment, fear, guilt, and control only obscure it, never extinguish it. The work is not to chase light. The work is to dissolve clouds. And how do you dissolve a cloud? Not with force, not with war, with awareness. Awareness is the great dissolver. When you see clearly what you've been carrying without judgment, without shame, the weight begins to lift. So take a breath now and simply ask, what am I ready to see? What truth have I avoided? Because I feared what it would ask me to release. Perhaps it's the truth that your identity is not in your trauma. Perhaps it's the truth that your worth is not defined by your productivity. Perhaps it's the truth that your pain has been a teacher, not a punishment. Or perhaps it's the truth that you're allowed to let go, even if no one else says sorry. There are no prerequisites to freedom. There is only your decision, your inner yes. And the moment you say yes to release, the sky opens, the burdens loosen, and your wings begin to stretch again. But the ego will not go quietly. It will tell you, if you let go, you'll be exposed. If you release control, you'll fall. If you forgive, you'll be weak. None of that is true. It is the ego that fears the sky because it cannot survive in openness. The ego feeds on structure, on story, on certainty. But the soul is water. The soul is wind. The soul is light. It cannot be contained. And when you live from soul, you do not need to know. You only need to be. There is an ancient wisdom that lives inside you, a compass that doesn't use logic but resonance. You feel it when you are near truth. You feel it when you are near joy. You feel it when something heavy suddenly feels light, and you know this is the path. Follow that. That is your wings speaking, and they will never lead you astray. But you must be willing to silence the noise, to step away from the collective panic, the chronic comparison, the constant mental commentary. You must dare to pause, to breathe, to listen inwardly, because in that space, the divine speaks, not with thunder, but with stillness, not with answers, but with presence. And that presence is what lifts you. You are not waiting for the sky to open. You are remembering that you are already in it. The weight you've been carrying is not keeping you grounded. It's keeping you distracted from the fact that you are already soaring. You just haven't opened your eyes to it. The more you release, the clearer you see, the lighter you become, and the more you begin to trust not the future, not the outcome, but yourself, your soul, your center. This is the liberation the saints spoke of. The freedom the mystics danced in, the peace the sages pointed to when they said, "Be still and know." Know what? Know that you are already home. Know that the wings were never outside of you. Know that everything you've ever sought is not in the distance, it is within. But it cannot be felt while carrying weight that was never meant to be yours. So lay it down, beloved soul. Lay down the proving. Lay down the defending. Lay down the striving. Lay down the waiting for permission. You are allowed to be light. You are allowed to be free. You are allowed to fly, not someday, not when it all makes sense, not when they apologize, but now. Now is your moment. Now is your portal. Now is the beginning of the rest of your flight. When the soul begins to remember its weightlessness, a quiet revolution takes place. Not in the external world, but in the inner kingdom. This is the true uprising, not against others, not against life, but against the false self you've been conditioned to carry. This uprising is not loud. It doesn't shout. It doesn't need applause. It simply refuses to carry what is no longer aligned with light. And in this refusal, a powerful truth emerges. You are not here to hold on. You are here to flow through. You are not a container for pain. You are a vessel for presence. And presence is too sacred to be filled with what is no longer real. So if it no longer feels like love, it no longer belongs in your hands. If it no longer resonates with peace, it no longer belongs in your heart. And if it no longer brings you closer to truth, it no longer belongs in your mind. You came to this earth not to collect, but to remember. And memory, true memory, is not about the past. It is about your origin, the divine essence that preceded all experience, all trauma, all identity. The light you were before the name, before the wound, before the story. That light has never been dimmed, only buried. And every act of letting go is an excavation, a return, a resurrection. The ego will call it loss, but the soul knows better. The soul calls it rebirth. Yes, rebirth. You will be reborn many times in this life, not just once. And each rebirth will cost you the version of yourself you thought you had to be. Each flight will ask you to shed another layer, to drop another burden, to trust more deeply than before. This is not regression, this is expansion. Every shedding is sacred. You shed illusions, you shed attachments, you shed roles you never truly agreed to, and one by one you return to the center of who you are, vast, open, free, and when you return there, the world begins to look different. You no longer react, you respond. You no longer perform, you presence. You no longer grasp, you allow. You no longer ask, how do I control this? But instead, what is this here to teach me? This is what it means to live from soul. And soul does not carry the past like a wound. It carries only the present like a flame. In that flame, everything that is false will burn away, and that is the grace of it. You are not being punished, you are being purified. All that is being asked of you is this: stop carrying what you don't want to become. If you hold resentment, you become it. If you carry fear, it becomes your lens. If you grip the past, it becomes your prison. But if you hold truth, you become peace. If you carry stillness, you become presence. If you walk in surrender, you become weightless. And when you become weightless, you don't even have to try to fly. You simply rise, like a feather no longer pinned down by ego, like a breath finally released into the world, like a soul no longer apologizing for its light. This is your destiny, not to strive, not to suffer, but to rise. And this rising cannot be done from effort alone. It must be done from trust. Trust that life is not working against you, it is working through you. That every detour was a redirection. That every heartbreak was a doorway. That every ending was a sacred invitation to begin again lighter this time. Have you noticed how nature never clings? The trees release their leaves without asking when the new ones will come. The river flows forward, never backward, never doubting its direction. The sun does not mourn the night, it simply returns again and again. And yet, we, the most conscious of creation, resist this natural rhythm. We hold on to last season's leaves. We grip the banks of the past. We beg the night not to fall. But healing is in the rhythm, and peace is in the release. So stop trying to force stillness through control. Allow it through surrender. Stop demanding that life obey your timeline. Let it unfold according to the greater wisdom that forms stars and births galaxies. That same wisdom is guiding your unfolding. You don't need to rush. You don't need to fight. You don't need to earn your flight. You only need to step out of the illusion that you were ever grounded to begin with. Your spirit was never bound. It was only your identification with the binding that made you feel stuck. It is not your job to carry every lesson forever. Some lessons are meant to be learned and then released. Some pains are meant to be felt and then transmuted. And some experiences are meant to pass through you, not stay inside you. Release is not rejection. It is integration. You take the wisdom. You leave the wound. You take the growth. You leave the guilt. You take the lesson. You leave the label. You are not who you were when the pain happened. You are who you became after it. And the more you release the story, the more you can honor the strength it gave you without needing to keep reliving the scene. You cannot write a new chapter while rereading the old one. And you cannot fly into your future while defending the architecture of your past. So breathe now. Breathe and ask your soul, what am I defending that I no longer even believe in? Because that is where the heaviest weights hide in old beliefs you don't even resonate with anymore. Beliefs like, I must be perfect. I'm not worthy unless I achieve. I'm only lovable if I'm needed. I can't rest until I've proven something. These beliefs are not you. They are inherited, adopted, programmed. And they are optional. Choose again. Choose freedom over form. Choose essence over expectation. Choose truth over tradition. You do not owe anyone the version of you that you've outgrown. Your only allegiance is to your becoming. And becoming requires lightness. Becoming requires courage. Becoming requires space. And above all, becoming requires letting go. There is nothing left to prove. No weight left worth carrying. You have already survived what was meant to break you. You are here, and you are free to choose peace, not someday, but now. So put it all down. The apology that never came, the identity that no longer fits, the guilt that was never yours, the grief you've already honored, the expectations that exhaust you, the fear that says you're not ready. Let it all fall. Because the moment you stop gripping the past, the future no longer frightens you. And the moment you stop defending the pain, healing finds you without effort. You don't need to chase purpose. You are purpose. Once you stop covering it up with everything you think you must be, the sky does not explain itself to the ground. It just opens wide, blue, boundless. So must you. Your lightness is your truth. Your peace is your power. And your freedom is already here beneath the weight you are finally willing to release. So rise. You're ready. Let go and fly.